that camera and phone. Then you can go over this one. Nice phone. I didn't see where the GoPro. I told you that before, you said you went away when I fell.
Nuclear special highlight.
I said, we can check GoPro. She said, I'm not wearing it on my head. So we come in with a bicycle helmet on it. Camera, that little one there. Can you get it out?
I just have to figure out how we got that. Yeah, I haven't figured out how to get to it.
Evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to the August 15th, 2016 special city council meeting. Would you please stand for the invocation followed by the pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Fathers, we gathered tonight to do the business of the city. We ask that you watch over us and guide us and give us direction. We ask that you just be amongst us and just lead us, Lord. In your name we pray. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please get the roll call.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Shai.
Yeah.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Gunderson.
Here.
Councilmember Feehan.
All present. Next, we move the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion and a second to bring this to the floor?
Support.
Any additions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Mr. Miller.
Approved.
Mr. Shai.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Gunderson.
Yes.
Mr. Feehan.
Yes.
Agenda passed 5-0 as presented. Next, moving to public comment. Anyone wishing to comment on any item, please step to the podium, name and address if you would for the record, please. You'll have 3 minutes. Seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment. Next, move into new business, which is considered a proposed revision of the city charter and a ballot question regarding the proposed revisions. Can the motion and second to bring this to the floor?
2016-0851, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Belding, Michigan, approving Charter Amendment Number 1 and the ballot language for Charter Amendment Number 1.
Thank you. Guess we'll turn this over to either Bruce or Randall Cracker, our attorney.
Bruce gives me the nod, so I guess I'm it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Randy Cracker. It's come to the attention of the city that there's some issues with regards to some non-resident members on a few of your commissions. One of the ways to address that going forward is certainly to consider an amendment to your charter, because your charter has a provision that requires membership on boards and commissions established pursuant to the charter to contain resident members. And so to address that, you would have to consider amending the charter. I'll go through that process with you in a minute, but it ultimately ends up with the people of the city being able to vote on whether or not to make that change. It's entirely driven by the voters of the city whether they want to make the change or not. But to initiate the election, to put it on the ballot, you as the council have to first agree to do that so that people can vote on it. And the state statute allows for you to decide to put a ballot question on the ballot involving the amendment to the charter. It requires a 3/5 vote of this body, so 3 of you, but here it doesn't really matter because you need 3 anyway to take any action tonight. But the statute says you need a 3/5 vote of the council in order to go forward with an amendment to the charter. The reason we're having a special meeting tonight is really schedule driven. This issue didn't really come up until relatively recently. There's a process that has to be followed, of course, to put this on the ballot, and there's a state schedule for elections for questions to be put on the November ballot, and that basically means that those questions, if you're going to put one on the ballot, have to be certified to the clerk tomorrow. And so you have a meeting tomorrow night, but that doesn't quite do it. And so we need to have this meeting, a special meeting today, to consider it, so that if you do decide you want to go forward with it, there's at least time then for Green to go forward, send it to the county, and put it on the ballot for the November presidential election. If you do decide to go forward, we'll still have to send a copy of this proposal to the Attorney General's office and to the Governor's office, because ultimately they have to approve it as being legal, if you will. If they for some reason reject it, we'll have to revisit this, but I'm pretty confident they won't reject this. So allow it to go forward and be voted on by other people if you decide to put it on the ballot. There's some minimal risk that they could decide that for some reason they think it's inappropriate to put it on the ballot. Normal course, if we had more time, we might first submit it to them and find out for sure before we get to you, but we don't have that luxury of time today, and that's why we're asking you to act first, and then we'll send it to the county and also send it to the Governor's office and the Attorney General's office. I've had contact with them. I believe they'll have no issues with it, and they indicated they would turn around fairly quickly, so we should know within 30 days or less, because it's a straightforward, fairly simple amendment. The resolution that's before you is fairly straightforward. It lays out your legal authority in the first paragraph to propose a ballot question, an amendment to the charter by a 3/5 vote. Then it goes on to say what that proposal would be, what the language would look like if this amendment is passed. And I'll come back to that in a minute. And the second paragraph simply lays out what it says now, and this is section 4.4F that we're talking about under the charter. And then the third paragraph talks about what the proposal will look like, which is simply to state that the form of the revised provision of the charter indicate a single sentence description, which is simply the amendment will allow non-residents to serve on some city boards and committees, commissions. And then it simply shall the amendment be as as proposed be adopted. Yes or no, it's very straightforward. And then there's the direction to the city clerk to transmit a certified copy to the state of Michigan and also to the Attorney General's office, to the Governor's office, and the Attorney General's office, and then also to submit it to the electors. And as part of that process, she has to forward it to the county clerk tomorrow. And the proposal itself is fairly straightforward. It takes the current provision, which limits who may be on your board of commissions to only those that are qualified registered electors of the city. But then it adds the last 3 lines to it. So if you go back to paragraph 1, and you look at the last 3 lines of the highlighted material, the bold point material, it says, except that a minority of the members of the library board, the museum advisory board, and the recreation advisory board may be non-residents of the city. So it's limited to those 3 boards. It's limited to a minority of the members being eligible, if you will, for non-resident positions. And of course, you still make the appointments as the city council. That's it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to try to answer questions. I don't know if Bruce, if you have anything additional. Have anything additional? Okay.
Brad, let's start with you.
Seen a couple notes going around the discussion of possibly taking like the museum and the library board and making it a nonprofit and breaking it away from the city. Would that still involve going through and redoing the charter to look at something like that, or is that entirely separate?
It really would be separate. This would give you, this doesn't preclude you from doing that if that's what you wish to do.
Right.
But if for some reason you don't decide to go down that path, this gives you the opportunity to keep it as a city board or commission, and then also, if you choose as the appointing body, to have some number of minority number of members who are not residents of the city.
Okay. That's it for me.
Mike?
Does the library really apply in this? You know, it's set up as a library district for the state law, and it encompasses the area around us, basically the school coverage.
I think the state statute for district libraries would authorize membership to come from within the district. So in theory, perhaps you could do that now. But it's not entirely clear based on that charter provision that could be read to limit that authority to take people from outside, from the entire district. In other words, because you may do something, in theory, doesn't mean you necessarily can under your charter. And so if you amend the charter, then there's no doubt that you can do that and have non-resident members of these 3 boards. There are certain other commissions where you simply can't. You know, the state law provides that certain members must be city residents, etc. That's why there's a limited number of boards and commissions here. The library is the one that's the most gray, though, however, because there is, as a district library, some statutory authority that could be read to allow you to do it now without a charter amendment, but this makes it clear that you may.
Tom?
The only comment is the same one I made at the last city council meeting. I think when the charter was written back in 65, 67, back in that time, I think government bodies thought more of themselves as fixed boundary lines. And I think in today's world, we tend to think more of government bodies as regional or area bodies. And my one comment the last meeting was the Central Riverside Park revisions that we're doing. Throughout the discussion, there was what can we do to make this a regional draw, not a Belding draw? We have the rails to trails that go through town. We don't look at that as a Belding draw, although Belding residents use it a lot. That's a regional draw. Bring people from all areas of Michigan and maybe from outside the state of Michigan to come to ride the bike trails. I like this amendment. I'm not sure that I would like to see some of the other boards covered by it. But it's not just Belding anymore, it's the region, the area. And I think with the input from some of the residents that are outside the city, I think it can only make the city better.
Doug?
I really don't have any questions, other than a comment that the way this is worded is what we've talked about, and it looks like it covers it the way we're open to it. And that's all I have to say.
I understand with the library what Mike's saying about this, because he asked a lot of questions that I had. They actually, when they select a new member for their board, they use it as a service area, which is, to get coverage from outside. And my concern is we have a minority of the members of the boards. And right now, when I just took count, there's 2 and 2 from outside, and there's 2 from the city. Normally, the selection is qualification as far as the library card, things like that, that are required for that board to be on the board. And it's no different than any of our other boards. We just have a hard time filling that position. This is part of the reason why we're doing this tonight. I really wish we could fix the problem rather than to do the amendments. I wish we had people that would step up and come to these boards and be part of the city. Obviously, there's an issue, there's a problem, and we'll have to look into that. I've been doing that since our last meeting, and I still can't get people. So, the historical district would not fall under that, nor would the DDA. The Labor Day committee, they're kind of like their own separate entity. The only thing that enters into that is the city does contribute money for the fireworks every year. We're making an amendment on 3 boards that give recommendations to the city council. And as I spoke before, the charter needs to be gone through. There's areas that need to be dealt with. And if this doesn't pass or doesn't make it through the timeline, I would really like to have this reconsidered to be able to set up a board to do what I had mentioned before, and that would be go through the whole charter and not just look at this. And that's one of the reasons why I have an issue with the minority of the members of these boards. I honestly don't know where the other 2 boards sit at as far as residents and non-residents. I know there's a couple here and a couple there. I don't know how the museum is actually set up as far as non-residents, but this is addressing an issue, but it's not really addressing the problem. And the problem still lies as we have non-residents on our boards as we speak. So, I guess I would ask the question is, what is your recommendation, Mr. Cracker, as far as what we do with those, as far as the non-residents that are on there now? This isn't something that just happened. This has happened over the last 15 to 20 years. It has continued down because no one's stepped up. And now, as I explained before, it was thrown on our laps, so now we need to deal with it. So,
My understanding is that these three boards are the ones that currently have non-resident members. That, at least my information was that no others currently do. And so, at least with regard to the other bodies, there's not an immediate problem. And this doesn't purport to fix that because there is a problem there right now. If this is adopted, there's nothing that keeps you from, in the future, deciding to go forward and revisiting the charter in a broader sense. And that's again entirely up to this body as to how they want to approach that. And you certainly can set up a charter revision committee and start looking at the charter from beginning to end. And you may end up with, a series of 5, 6, 7 amendments. They all have to be separate questions when they get to the point of being presented to the electors. But you certainly have within your authority ultimately to do that, to come up with some number of amendments. So that's going forward. There's nothing here that precludes you from doing that if you as a council think that's a good idea. I think with regard to the current ones, I wouldn't change anything right now. They've been appointed, they're serving, they only make recommendations. There's nothing that those three bodies do that bind the city, to my knowledge. And this will be on the ballot ready November 8th, so it's a relatively quick potential fix to that problem. If it's defeated, then I guess we'll have to revisit how you address those people going forward. But my advice to you in the short term would be, since they have been appointed, they are seated, they are only making recommendations. I don't have a problem keeping those folks on the boards until the result of the election.
thank you. I disagree with what you say, Tom, and we agree to disagree at times, but I hesitate to think that we go from a recommendation board of having non-residents to having planning, ZBA, and city council members. I think those are the things that need to be here. Those are the governmental entities that make the decisions, that raise the taxes, that change the ordinances and the zoning. As Mr. Cracker mentioned, these are recommendation boards. These go to us for recommendations. So let's go around the table again. Mike, start with you. Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Tom?
If I said city council someplace along the line, I had no intention of saying that to let somebody outside the city be on the city council. As for the ZBA, the planning commission, right now we have one on the ZBA that owns 55 acres of land in the city, as a substantial investment in the community. Whether, he should be on, shouldn't be on, I don't know. But the residents, he'll be losing his residency shortly, and at this point he'll have to resign. But he's got a substantial business interest in the city to see the city progress and move forward. That's where I'm coming from for any other business people that might be in this town, run a business, or own. Why would somebody that has a substantial business interest want to see Belding fall apart? I mean, it's to their advantage to have a progressive community. That's where I'm coming from on those, but I agree that this charter amendment is only for those 3 boards, and I wholeheartedly support that.
I have nothing more.
Right.
Yeah, so listening to everybody kind of give the comments, I agree that we should have a regional viewpoint as we look at the communities, especially in today's era. I think looking at the charter, and I've just had an opportunity over the last couple of weeks to read through the whole thing, and it's written basically, I think, before I was born. Just want to throw that out there. It's antiquated in certain ways, and it's very functional in other ways. But as you look at what we're looking at today, I think it's really important to understand that we're looking at individuals who will be making recommendations to us, and I think that's very positive. If you look at the way modern business exists, even from sports to business to industry, there's always some board that puts recommendations together, and you want the best individuals to support that. So in my mind, I see that there is no harm in somebody actually being part of one of these boards that's actually helping us with their knowledge move the city forward. In hearing that, I also support what Ron says, that if we have anybody or any board member that's making any governing decision that affects what we do here in regards to dollars and taxes and everything else, that has to be a resident. I feel that is appropriate. So in looking at this, I think it's written well from my standpoint, and I see that we have an opportunity to get some new thoughts in, but at the same time, we're keeping our business here in town. So I think it's well written, in my opinion.
Thank you, Brett. And nothing further. What would you like then? Randall, you'd like,
There should probably be a motion.
Motion.
To adopt this resolution as presented.
okay. Your motion out there to adopt.
I'll make the motion to adopt the proposal that's written.
Support. How did Doug?
Take it back.
Okay, any further discussion? Doug, anything?
Well, no matter what happens here, at election time, I think what we need to do, it's also, we do our application process. I understand that there's maybe some problems with this, it's been going on for some length of time. And I think what we need to do is look at this and we can see what changes we might be able to make down the road here in the near future to change that process.
Thank you. Brad, anything further?
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely. When you look at the charter, it goes through that anyone is seeking anyone in a position, anyone in the boards fills out the application, which I know they do. But it's getting it to the right channels so that we understand all of who is actually applying. I think doing that and kind of looking at hindsight is going to give us opportunity to do improvement in the future. So, and again, I'd like to thank everybody that's spent the time on this over the last couple of days or the last couple of weeks, because I know it's a lot to throw this together with the timeline over there. So, good job with that.
Hey, Brad, or Mike?
No.
Tom?
No.
I have no further comment on it. So call for the vote.
Mr. Shy?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Gutterson?
Yes.
Mr. Feehan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Resolution passed 5-0. Next meeting of council comments. Mike?
Just so everybody understands, this is to have the city residents vote on this. All we're doing is allowing it to go to the ballot box. And from what I've read, I was reading through the charter this weekend, when I had time, it is, sounds pretty old, and it could use some polishing.
Sorry.
You're close.
I
I looked right at it. You don't even have a deep tank.
Well, kind of.
Well, he doesn't. Oh, that's what it says.
No, I think this will be good for the community. As I said, it's, you know, Belding is no longer the city limits of Belding. Belding is the surrounding areas also. I think Bruce has made some inroads with working with the Tisca Township. And I think it's good to have some outside input. Whether it's at our meetings here, or at the rec board, or the other boards. There's a lot of good people out there in the community that can give us information, help us with decisions. I don't think we should be afraid to use them, even if they're outside the city.
Yeah.
I think I got everybody to it. All right. I want to thank everybody too. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Good turnout. Thank you, Randall, for coming up tonight. Give us your time. I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
There's no discussion. I'll call for a vote.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Gunderson?
Yes.
Mr. Seahan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Scheid?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
I wasn't trying to, I was going to pick it up to this.